afternoon. 各位午安。Yesterday, we had an opportunity to introduce this conference as a regional South Asian regional conference of Neohumanist educators.
那昨天我们在这个研讨会开场的时候，我们说这是我们新人道主义教育者、新人道教育者的这个南亚洲这个区域的研讨会。
Perhaps some of you know that we have a global association of Neohumanist educators.
那或许在场的各位知道说，目前我们有一个全球性的新人道主义教育者的网络。
And we have hundreds of schools, New Humanist projects in more than 60, 70 countries. And many people have devoted their entire life to bring, to make New Humanism alive through their initiatives, through their projects, through their schools, and through their activities.
那各位知道，我们现在在将近70个国家，有数百个这个新人道主义的学校或是计划。那有很多的教育者，他是终其一生把自己的生命投入在去推广新人道主义的教育，然后让他们这样的理念能够实现在学校或是计划之中。
So on the occasion of 25th anniversary of our Gurukul, we are holding events in different parts of the world, in Brazil, in Lebanon, in Italy, in India, in United States. So we decided to start this year with the conference first in Taiwan. But we are happy that there are representatives from Philippines, from Malaysia, from Hong Kong, and other places. 25th.
好，那目前是我们为了庆祝我们第25所这个大学的成立，那我们也希望说呢，能够趁这个机会在台湾、在亚洲区，然后在意大利、黎巴嫩等地举办研讨会。那我们在南亚洲这个区域，我们选择在台湾这边开始第一场的这个系列研讨会。但是我也很高兴看到，我们除了台湾这边的与会者之外，还有很多来自菲律宾、马来西亚的志同道合的人一起来参与这次的研讨会。
And around 1989 or 88 or 89, I went to Philippines as a global representative from Calcutta and from our headquarters at that time. And just before I left, our master who founded the whole system of education, he had given a message for all the teachers. So here I share with you a summary of that message.
在1998、99年之间呢，我从我们加拿大的总部前往菲律宾然后担任当地的这个负责人。那在那之前呢，我们组织还有这个新人道主义的新人道教育的创办者，他留下了一个讯息给所有的教育者、所有的老师。那现在我们很荣幸来跟大家分享一下这个讯息的一个摘要。
He said, "The noblest form of social service is to educate the public and create a sense of consciousness in them."
在所有社会服务中，最尊贵、最高贵的呢，就是能够教育大众，然后让在他们的内在呢创造出意识。
Kind of awareness in them, to create higher awareness in them.
能够引导他们呢有更高的意识、更高的觉知。
So education which leads to the acquisition of knowledge plus morality makes for a peaceful society.
教育呢，如果能够导向一种除了获得知识之外，还能够有培养道德的话，那么这样子的教育会创造出和平的社会。
So we all want to create a peaceful, a blissful, a happy, and prosperous human society. So we have a role to play in order to create that.
我们每个人都希望能够创造出更和平、更充满喜悦的社会。那为了要达到这个目标，我们每个人都要在这样子的努力当中扮演某种角色。
You know, every society, every country, every nation in the world, they want freedom, they want happiness for their citizens, they want prosperity, abundance, they want progress, and they want fairness or justice for all.
在这个世界上，所有的国家、所有的地区、所有的人都希望呢，能够获得自由，能够获得快乐，能够获得富足，能够让自己的所在的地方能够进步，能够让所有的人都能够享受公平正义。
So if we want it, why don't we get it? Why don't we have it?
如果每个人都希望能够获得这些东西，那为什么我们没有办法得到它？为什么我们并没有现在就将它握在手中呢？
It is because human mind is very complex. It not only has positive things in the head, but also negative tendencies.
那也这是因为呢，我们的人的心是非常复杂的，我们不是只有正面的、正向的一个倾向，我们有一些负面的一种心态，或是负面的一种倾向。
We can be the most sacrificing, most compassionate, most loving, most giving, most sharing, or we can be the most selfish, most self-centered, most arrogant, most egoist, and you can, you understand.
所以说，我们人很有可能也许在某个时候或是某个地方，我们可能是充满的，我们是最希望充满了无限的想要帮助别人的心，充满了能够愿意牺牲自己的心，充满了慈悲、宽大为怀的心态跟倾向，但也有可能在某个时候，我们是非常自私、自我中心等等。
So as I mentioned yesterday, the seed of all these things, they lie in our evolution, in our development of our mind.
那就像我们昨天提到的，我们所有这些事物的根源的种子呢，其实都存在于我们的心也就是说，我们心灵从粗钝到精细的一个演化的状态。
So if the level of consciousness of people is not developed, then you create a society of scarcity, of competition, and of conflicts. But if the mind is evolved, is developed, is in touch with the cosmic consciousness, then you are thinking about how all these things can be made possible for everyone.
如果人民的心没有得到高度的发展，只停留在粗钝的心那你会创造出一种你所创造出来的社会，就是充满了贫困，充满了竞争，充满了彼此伤害的社会。可是如果这个地方所有的人的心都高度的发展，都能够触及到宇宙意识至上意识，那么你所创造出来的社会，就将是会能够致力于达成我们上面这5点的这样的一个社会。
So you cut this tree from its roots, and you get problems after problems, and the whole society becomes dry, and life becomes miserable.
那就像我们如果把这棵树的根打断切断砍断那我们的社会本身就会遭遇到一连串的问题
And if we can, feed these roots with our love, with our endeavor, and then we can see that we can, this whole society becomes a beautiful place. And that is the role of this wisdom-based education, which we have called Neohumanist education.
如果我们能够让这个树的根源呢，用爱、用我们的努力来把它灌注的话，那么前面的以上的这个社会呢，就会成为一个充满富足啦、自由啦、正义、快乐的社会。那这个就是所谓以智慧为本的教育。那这样以智慧为本的教育，就是我们所谓的新人道教育。
Well, I will not dwell on this because that would be a whole subject in itself, but I just move forward because I just wanted to give you a glimpse of different images here.
那我们前面当然前面刚那棵树的这张投影片，我们有很多可以谈的，但是因为现在的这是一个单独的一个主题。那接下来我们要希望很快的进入到下一个阶段。
In human psychology, we have 4 basic longings: physical longing, psychic longing, psycho-spiritual longing, and spiritual longing.
那在我们人的心之中哦，有4个最基本的渴望哦，就是说物质渴望，然后物质通往心理的渴望，然后心理通往灵性的渴望跟灵性渴望。
We all have it. I have it. You have it. You have it. Each one of us have these longings.
我们所有人呢，我、你，还有所有在场的人，所有的人类都拥有这4种最基本的渴望。
The strongest in 90% of the society, people in the society, the strongest motivation is physical longings, pleasure. We want pleasure, immediate pleasure.
那所有我们可以说这个社会或者这个世界上99%的人，他们最强的渴望是物质渴望，也就是追求快乐、追求享乐。
Sensory pleasure.
这样的快乐主要是感官的快乐。
Well, the problem is that if we pursue this path of pleasure, it also brings with it addiction.
那问题在于说，如果我们只追求这个层面的快乐的话，那么这样的一个追求或者这样的快乐背后有另外一个危险，就是所谓的成瘾、上瘾的危险。
If you taste it once, you want to taste it again and again and again, and before you know, you cannot live without it. And your identity is defined by your physical, urges.
那你尝了一次这样的快乐之后，你想要第2次、第3次、第4次，然后慢慢的你发现你已经没有它，你就不能活了。所以你会发现你整个人的身份、你的生命你如何定义你的生命，就是透过这些物质来定义自己的生命。
This is what is called the path of bhoga. Bhoga means, sensory pleasures. To get the sensory pleasures, that is bhoga.
那这样的一个词，这样的一种享乐哦，在梵文里面称之为 bhoga， 就是说你的这个物质或是感官的快乐。
But bhoga leads to roga. Roga means disease.
那这样的一种快乐，它所引导我们走向的就是疾病。
And roga ultimately leads to death.
但疾病下一步就是死亡。
So this is, one side. And the other side is, if we want to overcome this, then we need to follow the path of yoga.
那当然，这是我们追求的左半边的这样的一个方向的追求。那当然，如果我们要克服这样的一个状态，我们就必须用另外一个方向的追求。那这样的方向的追求，我们在梵文里面称之为 yoga。
So, this is the pull between, what path to take in order to evolve, in order to reach to the higher levels.
那这里面所牵涉到，就是我们选择采取哪一个方向来让我们能够进化到下一个阶段。
And we do not only want pleasure now, we also want to secure our pleasure for tomorrow, after 5 years, after 10 years, after 100 years, not only for ourselves, for our children, for our grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and sometimes we don't even know if we will have them, but we want to make sure there is enough for them.
那对于快乐，我们不是说只有说我当下很快乐就好了哦。事实上，我们会希望说，我能够确保明天我也很快乐，后天我也很快乐。那事实上，你不只要确保你自己自身的快乐，你还会希望说，我的孙子、我的曾孙，他们也都能快乐。就算你不知道自己会不会有就是后代，你还是希望说我能够确保他们也能够拥有这些快乐。
So this tendency leads us towards the path of accumulation of wealth, accumulation of power, or whatever, and that is why we need a philosophy like Kraut, which will put some limits on our accumulative tendency.
正因为人有这样的一种倾向所以这样的倾向就会导致我们开始会囤积什么？金钱、囤积财富、囤积力量，或是就是你的影响力。那对抗或对峙这样的倾向的方式，就是我们的进步运用论，也就是透过我们分享跟服务来制衡我们内在的那种想要囤积、想要占为己有的渴望。
So our education has to be based on those principles which will not lead us in this direction, but which will lead us in this direction.
因此，我们的教育所根据的原则，必须是不会导向那种囤积金钱、囤积财富的这样的方向，而是必须让我们引导到这个所谓的分享跟服务等等。
And some other time, probably I would talk about this power, because in the higher realms of our psycho-spiritual pursuits, we also desire to have power, and that's what leads to desire for political power, the power to be the president, to have control over the whole country, and because then you can control, through the political power, you can control economic power. And that's why if we want to create enlightened leadership, we need to sublimate this longing for power into longing to provide empowerment to one and all.
所以今天我在这边我们也要稍微提一下，就是说，因为这种除了这个为未来的子孙累积财富之外，你还会在我们心灵导向灵性的追求上，我们还可能养成一种渴望，就是对力量的渴望。这种对力量的渴望导致于我们会想要追求所谓政治力量，比如说我想要当总统，那透过当总统你能够掌控这些力量，然后掌控了这些力量之后，你就能够间接的掌控经济力量那也为了对峙这样的倾向，我们要必须去培养一种我们的教育必须让所有人去希望赋予别人力量，把力量能够赋予别人。
So you will notice in this picture, if we follow this path, then it's more difficult to go up. But if you follow this path, you can go higher up and you can easily experience the bliss.
所以我们从这个图的左右两边来看，所以如果我们依循左边的这个一般的现在的一个方向的话，那你会发现，当我们到了第二层，就是追求这个为了这个未来子孙追求这些囤积这些财富等等的这个方向的时候，那人很难再往上爬。可是如果我们能够往像图右边的这个方向，我们很容易就能够爬到一个高度，让我们体会到什么是至上的喜悦。
So this is possible only if we develop awakened conscience, which again brings us back to education, Neohumanist education.
当然呢，要能够踏上右边这条道路，我们就必须有一种能够培养出觉醒的良知。那觉醒的良知，当然就又回到我们教育，我们的教育必须是能够培养出被受教育者他们的意识。
So we would like all of you to come forward and in the places where you live, try to create such centers, take some initiative so that we can bring this knowledge, to the common people, so that they develop this awareness, higher awareness about how to take care of the body, how to take care of the mind, how to understand what society needs, and the spirit of service, and to create this one human society.
那也因此，今天的课程还有这次的研讨会，也是希望说我们所有的人都能够站出来呢，在自己所居住的地方，慢慢的去创造出这样的一种致力于新人道学术研究跟推广的中心。那我们采取一些行动，让所有透过教育，能够让所有的人培养出意识，然后让他们呢，找到一个用最正确的方式来提升自己跟照顾好自己的身心灵，同时也能够照顾好自己所处的这个环境。
So I will not spend too much time on this, but just to give you a sense that we can create such centers with the idea. It's not only transmission of information, it is to turn that information into practice. So New Humanism is a transformative philosophy. It's not something you just read it in the book and it goes into your head and it stays there. No. It has to help us to transform our lives and our actions and our behavior.
所以呢，我们前面讲到这样的一个中心哦，不是说我有这样的地方，然后我把这样的资讯传给别人就好了。因为新人道主义的这样的它的哲学是一种转变，就是一种能够带来转变的哲学。就是说，当我们去了解它，并且去将它转变为我们自身的实践的时候，它会为我们自己还有我们四周的环境带来转变。
So there is no dearth of knowledge, there is no dearth of information. What it needs is our commitment to embrace those ideas which can transform our life, which can transform the lives of our communities, and which can create a better world.
所以呢，重点不是说只是累积知识、累积资讯，而是将这样的一个知识跟资讯呢，化为实践，然后让它能够来为我们自己、为我们所处的这个社区，甚至为整个世界带来转变。
So what is the difference between neo-humanist approach and all the other approaches?
那新人道教育的方向跟其他的方式有什么不一样呢？
The key difference is that it's not just a mere theory. It's not mere only information. It is something which transforms our life and our behavior and our thinking and our actions. And that's what makes a neo-humanist movement alive in the world, because there are people who have dedicated their whole life to service, who have dedicated their whole life to education, who have dedicated their whole life to doing something in the society. So where does inspiration come from? That is the source of neo-humanism.
所以新人道主义的最大的差别在于，它不是只是理论而已，它是有一套能够执行的修持的方法，或者说能够实际操作的方法，让你能够改变自己，改变你的这个四周的人。然后呢，那因此有了能够将它付之实现的这个方式之后呢，才会让我们现在有这么多人呢，能够愿意把自己投入在教育，投入在服务，投入在推广这一样的一个新人道主义的教育。
Just imagine, if you think of it, we are just little drops in this vast ocean of consciousness. We have no existence, our presence. If we are like a tiny, minuscule, which cannot even be seen, in this huge cosmos. But on the other hand, if you see, that universal, the whole universe resides in us. And one man, one woman, one person, if they embody that universal consciousness, that positive microvita can transform the whole world. Just it takes only one individual to transform the whole world. If we are linked with that power, with that universal consciousness.
那所以大家可以想象一下，如果我们每个人其实就是这样的一个小水滴哈，那我们的这个小水滴在这个整个无限庞大的意识之海中哦，其实你说要看根本看不到。那但是如果呢，相对的，如果我们能够把我们自己的意识跟至上意识连接，让这个意识就存在于我们的内在，那么就只需要一个人，他就能够创造出足够的微生源，能够在他自己所处的环境里面带来巨大的转变。
So our children in our schools, they start meditating at the age of 5.
在我们的学校里面呢，小朋友从5岁开始就可以做静坐。
So by the time they will be 25, they will also have a rich inner world, and not only what they, gets pumped into their heads from the external stimulus.
所以呢，想象一下，等到这样的小朋友到了25岁之后呢，他的内在的世界是很丰富的，不是只有说你累积了多少知识，而是说你透过在静坐的过程，你开发出很丰富的内在的世界。
And this inner world is the world of values is the world of, different forms of energies, physical energy, psychic energy, spiritual energy.
那这样的一个内在世界是由很多的不同的能量所构成的，包括物质能量、心理的能量，甚至是灵性的能量。
So we have to be very careful what our children eat, because what we eat forms, our mind, our bodies, our ectoplasm is influenced by what we eat and the environment in which we live.
那所以呢，就是这也呼应前面在讲我们这个新人道教育实用的部分，就是说我们也要特别注意小朋友吃什么，因为你吃了什么，它就会转变成你内在的一部分了。透过我们看这边这样的图嘛，那所以呢，我们必须非常注意我们提供什么食物让小朋友吃。
Well, in order to understand the reality, we have to make use of science and technology.
为了要了解我们所处的实相，或者我们所处的这样的一个现实，我们必须去运用科学，运用技术。
In order to understand the inner world, also we need to use science and technology. Meditation is also a kind of a scientific method, intuitional science we call it.
那当然，就是说，为了要了解我们内在的世界，我们也需要一套科学的方法、科学的技术。那事实上呢，静坐它也是一套科学，那我们称之为直觉科学。
So to understand what is what, we need science.
那要了解什么是什么，我们需要科学。
But in order to act, in order to perform actions, we need something more. How? When we want to do how to do it, then it takes more than scientific understanding. It also requires aesthetics, art, literature, and humor, or sense of aesthetics, which can bring joy and happiness all around.
那但是我们不是只要知道就好，我们还要知道说怎么去付诸行动，我们怎么样去创造出行动。那这个所谓如何创造行动，我们就需要艺术，需要美学，能够透过美感的方式，将我们所知的转变成为行动。
But to have the inspiration and the motivation, we also need a sense of why we should do, what we should do, and why we should do.
那为了要就是除了这个如何去做之外，我们还要就是为什么要做呢？那我们要回答为什么要做这些事情，我们就需要某种的启发，某种的因为某种感动而促使我们去做。
So the spiritual world gives us, spiritual knowledge gives us a sense of direction, purpose, why we have to live like this, why we have to do this every day, why we have to, behave in a certain way. It's important.
那因此呢，灵性的知识它让我们知道说，为什么我要这么做，为什么我们要每天做某些事情，为什么我们要采取某种行动？那这样的一些启发是来自于灵性的知识。
So to create a new world, we need new leaders. We need a new human being. Human beings, we have called them sadvipras, benevolent intellectuals. Not only intellectuals in a theoretical sense, but awakened intellectuals.
那为了要这个创造出这样的一个未来，我们就需要所谓的新的人类。那这样的新的人类，我们称之为在梵文，我们称之为 sadvipra 是真知识哦。这些真知识跟以往的知识分子是不一样的。这样，他们一方面具有知识，一方面他们的心灵是启发的、启蒙的，然后他对这个世界是充满善意的。
So we need people who are moral, who are virtuous, who have the charm and the inspiration to help others, to lead others on the path of goodness, who are confident, commanding, dynamic, knowledgeable, and you can add many more qualities.
所以我们在这张图上看到这些下面这个圈圈里面的这些特质，就是我们对这个所谓 sadvipra 新的觉醒的知识分子，或是说真知识，他会具备的特质，他会拥有一种 充满的对这个世界是充满善意的，他愿意带领别人走向跟他一样的启蒙的道路。
This work has to start from an early age. That's why Neohumanist education is essential to transform society.
那这样的一个工作是要从小就开始，从小朋友就开始，所以呢，我们说新人道教育是非常重要的。
So in order to create these wisdom-centered individuals, we need wisdom teachers. And those who have not only IQ, intelligence quotient, not only PQ, the productivity quotient, they are just machines to produce, but they also have emotional quotient. So this, we need wisdom-centered individuals. That's the work of the Neohumanist education, to create wisdom-centered individuals.
所以呢，要创造出有智慧的学生当然老师也是必定要有相同的智慧。那我们这边看到说，我们现在衡量人的各种的数值包括 EQ 啦、IQ， 我想大家都知道它什么意思。另外还有什么 PQ， 就是说他能不能有能力创造出很多的东西。那事实上在这里面最重要的一个我们说衡量的数值其实是智慧的数值WQ 那有了这些东西综合起来，才能够真正的创造出对未来的新人类。那所以呢，不管是老师或是學生，都需要以这个为努力的目标。
WQ should be equal, my mistake.
It should be equal. There's a mistake.
所以我们图上面这是有，不是 WQ 减是 WQ 等于那个后面的东西。
Well, it would be a whole day seminar if we just discuss this subject, but we'll move on.
这是每一张图都可以一整天来讨论，但是我们必须往下面进行。
And I already shared this yesterday in the morning session, and I just wanted to mention it again, that it's a holistic approach. It's not an utopia. This is what human beings need. If we don't have it, we are subhuman. And that is a deviation from reality.
所以这张图我们昨天早上也谈过，就是说我们想再一次提醒大家一下，就是说这些都是，这不是说所谓的乌托邦的理想，这是所有人类都需要。所以当我们这图上这些东西，我们在哪一方面欠缺的时候，代表我们其实是不如人类，就是我们没有达到人类的标准。因此我们这样子的一个架构，是我们所有人都必须努力朝那个方向前进的。
It's a big work, and it requires many, many talented people to help us to develop curriculum and to translate this into practice in the classroom.
那当然这是一个很庞大的工作，我们也需要很多人的投入将这样的一个理念转变为实际的课程的规划，然后让它能够在每天的这个教室活动当中实现。
And even the sense of future. It's very important to understand the past, what went wrong in the past, so that we do not repeat it, and what kind of future we want to create, so we can co-create the future. So our present has to be dictated by understanding of the past and what we want to achieve in the future.
那所以我们就以这个正下方这边来讲，就是说我们所处的，就是说我们必须对未来有所了解，我们才不会在现在创造出同样的错误。同时，为了要创造出我们所有人都希望达到的未来，所以我们必须对过去是有所了解的。
And I already shared this yesterday. It is a cooperation of many different, of parents, of teachers, of the government, of the school administrators, and it is dictated by our needs of society and local community.
那当然，就像这也是昨天提到过，就是说，其实新人道教育所牵涉到，它不是一个人或是一个单位的活动，它事实上牵涉到了包括家长、社区，还有整个政府的规划，还有考虑到当地社区的需求等等。
But of course, our focus is not only on children. That is the important focus, but we need to go beyond that also.
当然，我们的重点不是只有在小朋友身上，虽然小朋友也是很重要，那我们也必须对其他的这个其他的年纪的人有所这个考虑。
So now we need your participation in how we can cultivate this new humanist awareness, how we can culture these new humanist values, how we can create joyful and enriching learning environments, and how we can strengthen the authenticity and legitimacy of our, this global initiative.
那所以呢，对于未来的展望，就是我们也希望大家一起共同努力。也就是说，第一个当然是培养我们对新人道主义的一个认识跟了解，再来就是说希望呢，能够创造出这样的一个新人道教育的文化，让老师跟学生都共同的在这个方向上前进。同时呢，大家也就是努力创造一个喜悦，能够带来丰富学习经验的环境。最后当然是能够强化新人道教育运动的真实性跟或者说合法性。
And I will come to the end of my presentation because I know Dr. Bassi has many beautiful things to share with us today. So I won't discuss all these things, but I think just show you these images that there are thoughts concerning how to develop inner ecology and outer ecology, and this is in Thailand, in our children's home.
那接下来我们当然很快速的谈。那我们现在看到这张图是我在泰国我们这个儿童之家的画面。
So as I mentioned yesterday, the Gurukul aspires to be a trademark of excellence in thought and action, from the theory to execution, from its staff to its body of educators, from the children to the elderly. The emphasis of Gurukul and its new humanist network is to raise the benchmark of quality in the affairs of human civilization.
那再一次我们还是要强调一下，就是我们古鲁库他所期望的，就是说能够让自己成为一个，不管是思想或行动上一个绝佳的一个品牌哦。然后不管是从理论跟实践，或是说从工作人员到所有的教育从业者，那不管是小朋友或是长者。我们这个古鲁库跟新人道主义网络的一个所要强调，就是说能够提升人类文明中所有的层面。
So this excellence can be measured not only in terms of cognitive excellence, but it is also in our benevolence. How much we can sacrifice, how much we can extend ourselves to create one universal society.
所以，其实我们衡量这个人类文明提升的标准，不是说只是说我们认知、我们获得，或是我们能够体验到多少的知识，而是在于我们有多大的程度愿意为自己愿意牺牲自己，能够创造出更好的社会、更好的文化、更好的文明。
Magnanimity, how we can expand the level of magnanimity.
那比如说，我们能够让自己的心胸有多宽大，能够多包容。
And this is a website which we are building up, Ghane-Educators, Global Association of New Humanist Educators, -educators.org.
那我们现在也看到，这个是我们新人道主义教育者这个全球全球协会的一个网址，在下面。
Society has seen many developed individuals, scientists, musicians, philosophers. We have seen so many great people who have come on this earth, and that's not the end. There are many who are still waiting to rise up.
那我们看到这张图古往今来，我们各个不同的社会都创造出各种 许许多多的伟人。那事实上不只是他们哦，这些艺术家啦、科学家啦等等政治人物等等，不只是他们。事实上我们在场，我们每个人都有一个伟大的人等待的要出现。
Such people have shaped our society to move forward.
这样的人呢，塑造了我们的社会，让社会继续前进。
And there are many more who also in their own ways have contributed to the evolution of human society.
那这里面我们也看到有更多其他的这些伟大的修行人呢，他们以他们的方式呢，来提升整个社会。
You know, this man lived for more than 250 years. These two people lived more than 280 years.
那我们看到这两个中间这根上面数来第3排最右边的2位，他们活的时间超过200年。
The message of all of these people is the same, that we have to go beyond the visible into the realm of invisible, transcendental world.
那他们这些人所传递的讯息其实都是一样，就是我们必须跨越这个可见物的范畴哦，然后去达到一个不可见的超越的这个层次。
So the Neohumanist philosophy is a very sweet and happy blending of the material and the spiritual.
那我们可以说，新人道主义的哲学呢，它是一种用很甜美的方式呢，融合了心灵跟物质的层面。
Let the intellectuals be taught spirituality, and let the spiritualists be taught intellectuality.
那我们也可以说呢，让这些所谓的知识分子呢，能够接触到灵性，那也让这些灵性的人呢，能够也了解到这个，不管是接触到所谓的知识。
I hope that our Neohumanist education movement will initiate a new chapter in human history by, leading society in this positive direction.
那我也很希望，就是说我们的新人道教育的运动啊的工作呢，能够开创人类历史的新页，能够去创造出这样的一种新的社会。
Thank you very, very much.
非常感谢各位。
好，我们非常感谢那个达达给我们都很多的分享哈。那我想达达虽然介绍了很多伟大的人物哈，可是这个社会的改变来自于在座每一个人。虽然大家都是小人物，可是真正的历史的改变还是在每个人身上哈。因为在座有很多的人是老师或者是家长。那刚才达达有提到一个很重要的概念，就是说 inner knowledge， 就是我们内在的部分的灵性的提升，你会转化到外在的世界的改变。也就是说，我们看到我们的学生、我们的学校还没有改变，那我们要从我们自己每一个人先做自我的提升，这个部分最重要。因为当我们自我提升之后，我们就可以在我们先影响我们自己，我们自己先做一个身心灵的结合，然后再影响到我们周边的家庭，然后再影响到这整个社会。所以，我们当下一定要从每个人开始做，不要急着说就要去改变很大先从自己开始做，然后再慢慢的去。还有刚才那个达达有讲句话我觉得非常重要开发自己，去让自己有更多的宽大跟包容。我觉得我们的社会在这个部分对自己的宽大跟包容都太少，对孩子的宽大跟包容都是非常缺乏的我想就把那个达达这句话，我们再次的再跟各位回顾一下。那大家回去之后一定要先把这句话做好，对自己宽大包容一点，对孩子宽大包容一点。我相信我们的教育灵性教育未来一定有很大的一个空间。那接下来我们要请那个我们另外一位讲师呢，他是那个Marco 巴西这样发音应该是对的，因为我们昨天一直念错这样那 他是来自澳洲阳光海岸大学的教授。那他的专长是研究那个未来学尤其对未来教育有非常深的研究。那过去他曾经在那个蒙特梭利这个学校也担任过讲师，所以他是从实务上来的。然后另外一个部分，他也在从事很多这个灵修营队的这个一个老师哈，所以很多的问题我们都可以请教他这样哈。那另外这一次他来台湾，在淡江大学就是从事一些对于亚洲地区的一些那个未来教育的一些研究哈。那所以我们未来可以在那个老师这边哈，得到非常多的信息。那大家待会一定要把握机会，多提一些想法跟意见，然后跟他做请教这样。好，那我们还是一样以我们的热烈的掌声来欢迎我们的老师。好，谢谢。
How are you all? I have to confess that I'm slightly ADHD. Do you know what that means?
那我要跟大家先做一个告解就是我有一点的这个 ADHD 的这个症状。
I think you're remarkable, especially this young man here, for sitting so still, so quietly.
那我觉得大家都非常厉害，尤其是我们前面这个小朋友大家竟然都可以坐得稳稳的都没有动来动去。
You must do great meditation.
那你们一定能够做非常好的静坐。
But I have to hop up and down a little bit, and I'm going to ask you to do it with me.
那我
Just to start.
那我想要站起来动一动，我希望大家也跟着我一样
Please stand up. I'm going to lead you through a little bit of a bone loosening, brain loosening movement exercise.
那我想请
See
大
the
家，
corners down there? Let's go and visit them. Let's walk down to the end of the
我
room.
们现在大家站起来走一走，我们现在往这个角落的部分前进，往那边走。
Now, I'm going to ask you to walk quickly.
然后请大家走快一点。
If you bump someone, say thank you or sheshe.
如果你已经碰到了某人，你跟他说谢谢。
Now we're going to jump.
然后现在请大家跳着走，请大家跳一跳。
Now we're going to stand very still.
然后要站得非常稳，不能动。
We're going to look at the moon in our hearts.
然后我们要看着这个天花板，看到我们心中的月亮。
We're going to move quickly again.
然后我们要
Any way you like.
然后我们要走快一点，
Stand still.
站着不动
Run，fast.
然后再走快一点。
Whoa. On your marks. Get set. Go.
好，再走快一点。又跑。碰到人的时候要说谢谢。
Stand still on one leg.
好，一只脚站着不动，
Wave your right arm
然后
up in the air.
摆动你的右手，
Squat down.
蹲下
Rock
来，
side to side.
然后左右摆动，
Stretch your back. Ah.
伸展一下你的背。
Can you feel the blood reaching your brain a little bit? Mine still hasn't got there. I have to keep
你
going.
有没有感觉你的血液跑到你的大脑？如果还没有，不要再动一下，然后再站
We
起来，
walk
然后慢慢走，
in an unusual way.
用很不一样的方式用你的脚跟先碰到地板，然后再整只脚踏上去。
We're going to run sideways.
然后我们要像螃蟹一样横着走，
Backwards the other way.
然后再换另外一个方向，
Now we're going to hop.
然后我们要单只脚跳，
We're going to hop in circles.
然后要跳成一个圆圈
On the other leg
转圈跳，好，再换一个方向。
Now we're going to, at your free, you can do this any way you like. We're going to walk, run, or stand still, pandemonium for about 2 minutes.
好，现在我们接下来2分钟，你可以用跑，你可以用走，或是你可以站着不动用你想要的方式，用我们刚刚的介绍过的方法。
Find some part of the room you haven't visited yet and go and say hello to it.
然后呢，去找一些，看看这个房间你哪里还没有去过去看看那个地方，去看看那个角落，然后跟那个地方说你好。你好。